The Silverfang forest stretched endlessly under the pale light of the moon, its trees tall and ancient, their leaves whispering secrets of 1,000 years. Among the shadows, a lone figure moved with silent grace. Lyra, the Omega, ran on limbs that had learned the rhythm of the wild. Her hair, dark as the forest soil, tangled with leaves, and her eyes, sharp, alert, mirrored the green depths of the woods around her. For 10 years, she had lived here, with the pack that had taken her as a child. She had never known human warmth, nor the rules of a kingdom that pulsed beyond the forest's edge. Her family were wolves, but not ordinary ones. They were intelligent, fierce, and bound by loyalty and instinct. They had taught her to hunt, to run, to listen to the heartbeat of the forest. And though she could not speak as humans did, Lyra understood them in ways words could never reach. Tonight, the wind carried a scent unfamiliar and dangerous. Lyra froze. Her nose twitched, picking up the faint trace of humans. Her ears tilted forward as she padded silently over the mossy ground. Something was wrong. Wolves were restless, their growls low in the distance. She followed the sounds, her heart beating with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Near the edge of the forest, Lyra spotted movement. A figure stumbled, falling hard against the roots of an ancient oak. Human, she realized, and he was hurt. Blood stained his sleeve, and his breathing came in ragged bursts. Lyra's instincts wavered. Humans were dangerous, unpredictable, but the scent of power clung to him. Something about him made her senses flare. She stepped closer, careful not to make a sound. The stranger's dark hair hung over his face, and his eyes, though clouded with pain, were sharp and commanding. Lyra had seen wolves in such moments, and she knew the signs. He was alpha, even if he tried to hide it. "Stay still," she whispered, though she knew he could not hear her. Her voice was soft, barely more than the rustle of leaves. The stranger groaned and tried to move, but his leg twisted unnaturally. Lyra studied him. He needed help, yet he was a predator, a leader. She stepped closer, muscles tensed, and nudged him gently. He flinched but did not fight. Lyra made a decision. She could not leave him here, even if it was dangerous. With surprising strength, she guided him to a shallow hollow in the forest, where moss and roots would cushion him. Her hands were quick and sure, born of years surviving in the wild. "Who are you?" she murmured again, though she knew he could not answer. Hours passed. The moon climbed higher, silver light spilling through the branches. Lyra kept watch, her sharp eyes scanning the shadows. She felt a strange connection to this man, something beyond instinct. She sensed both strength and vulnerability in him, a balance she had never seen before. The stranger stirred, groaning again. Lyra's instincts screamed at her to back away, but she could not. She wanted to know him, to understand the power that radiated from him like sunlight breaking through the canopy. Finally, his eyes opened, gray piercing yet softened by pain. He studied her, and for a moment there was no fear, no hostility, only recognition. Lyra's heart, wild and untamed, skipped. Who are you?" he rasped. Lyra tilted her head, unsure how to answer. She could not speak human words easily. Instead, she touched his hand briefly, a silent offering of trust. He flinched at first, then relaxed slightly. "I am of the forest," she said softly, almost to herself. The man's lips curved faintly in a shadow of a smile. "Of the forest, yes. I can see that," Lyra frowned. Something in his voice resonated deep within her, as if he could understand her without words. But she knew better than to trust too easily. The world outside the forest was full of danger, and humans could be cruel. Night deepened, and the forest around them grew quiet, save for the distant howl of wolves. Lyra felt her pack's presence, their unseen eyes watching from the shadows. She knew they would approve of her actions, or at least tolerate them. "Why are you here?" she asked softly, still unsure why she even cared for an answer. The man's gray eyes flicked toward the moonlit treetops. I cannot stay long. They would find me." He coughed, wincing at the movement. "I am not meant for this place." Lyra studied him. He spoke with authority, even in weakness. Something about him felt royal, dangerous yet magnetic. Her instincts screamed at her to run, to retreat into the safety of her pack. But curiosity and something more, a longing she had never understood, kept her rooted. "Then why are you here in the forest?" she asked. He looked at her, his gaze sharp. "I came seeking something. Someone." His voice was a whisper, but it carried weight, as if the forest itself leaned in to hear. Lyra's heart quickened. She had never met anyone who spoke like this, who seemed both human and something greater. Her senses buzzed with awareness, every nerve alert. The air between them pulsed with tension, unspoken and electric. Suddenly, distant shouts echoed through the trees. Lyra stiffened. Humans, soldiers, she realized, were approaching. The stranger's eyes widened. They found me. Without hesitation, Lyra acted. She grabbed his arm, dragging him deeper into the forest, weaving between trees and underbrush with the agility only someone raised by wolves could possess. The shouts grew louder, more frantic. Lyra's heart pounded, but she did not falter. She was the forest. She was home, and she would protect him, even if she did not understand why. They stumbled into a hidden hollow beneath a fallen tree, where thick roots formed a natural barrier. Lyra pressed her hand against his chest, feeling the rapid beat of his heart. His eyes met hers, wide with a mixture of awe and something else, something unspoken that made her pulse thrum in a way she could not ignore. "Who are you really?" she asked again, though her voice was barely more than a breath. He closed his eyes for a moment as if gathering strength. "I am someone who cannot afford weakness." His gaze returned, fierce now. "And yet, I feel it here with you." Lyra's mind raced. What did he mean? And why did she feel drawn to him, despite every instinct screaming caution? The forest grew quieter. Even the wolves seemed to hold their breath. Lyra realized something strange. She had never felt like this before. There was curiosity, yes, and concern, but also longing. She was drawn to him in a way that frightened her. He was human, yet something in him felt like the pack, like the wild itself. "Rest," she whispered, settling beside him. "You cannot fight your enemies if you cannot stand." He nodded, leaning against the roots, his breathing slowing. Lyra watched him silent. For the first time, she felt a strange ache inside her, a feeling she did not have words for. He was strong, dangerous, yet vulnerable. He was important. Hours passed. The first hints of dawn painted the forest in soft golds and pinks. The stranger stirred once more, pain etched across his face. Lyra helped him to his feet. He swayed but did not fall. "Thank you," he murmured. "I owe you my life." Lyra shook her head, brushing leaves from her hair. "The forest protects those who respect it," she said simply. He studied her, eyes narrowing thoughtfully. You're not like anyone I've ever met." She smirked faintly, though it felt strange to smile at a human. "And you are not like anyone I have ever met." A silence fell between them, thick and charged. Neither moved to leave. Neither wanted to break the fragile connection that had formed between predator and protector, human and Omega, strength and wildness. But the world beyond the forest waited, full of danger, deceit, and power. Lyra knew she could not keep him safe forever. Yet a part of her, deep and unspoken, did not want him to leave. She sensed that this encounter was only the beginning, that their fates were now intertwined in ways she could not yet understand. As the sun rose, spilling light through the mist, Lyra felt a strange thrill. Fear, yes, but also excitement. The stranger's presence stirred something ancient and powerful within her. Something that whispered of destiny, of bonds yet unformed, and of a love that could be as fierce and untamed as the forest itself. And somewhere deep within the shadows, the forest pack watched, silent and approving, as the wild Omega and the stranger, an alpha like no other, stood on the edge of a story that would change their lives forever. The city rose beyond the forest, tall and cold, with walls that shimmered like steel in the morning sun. Lyra had never seen such stone towers or crowded streets. Everything here felt wrong, too orderly, too sharp, too human. Her senses screamed, warning her to run back to the safety of the forest. But curiosity and something deeper kept her moving forward. She had followed the stranger from the forest, the one whose gray eyes haunted her thoughts. She did not know his name, nor the full reason he had come into the wild. Yet she felt a strange pull toward him, a thread of destiny weaving them together. The palace gates loomed ahead, guarded by soldiers in polished armor. Lyra pressed herself against the shadows, observing quietly. The stranger had entered here, and she sensed that this place held dangers far greater than the forest. Here, power and ambition could wound more than claws or teeth. Inside the palace, the corridors were long and echoing, filled with whispers of plots and promises. The stranger moved with purpose, though even he seemed wary of the walls that hemmed him in. Lyra followed unseen, slipping silently through shadows and empty halls. Finally, she saw him. The stranger, strong, commanding, and undeniably human, stood before a window looking out over the city. Something in his posture was different here. The wild freedom she had seen in the forest was replaced by caution, calculation, and yet when he sensed her presence, his gray eyes softened. "You followed me," he said quietly, not turning. Lyra stepped from the shadows, her feet soundless on the stone floor. "I wanted to know why you came here," she said simply. He studied her, and for the first time there was no pretense in his gaze. "You are braver than I expected. Or more foolish." Lyra met his eyes evenly. "Perhaps both." A faint smile touched his lips. "I am Kale," he said, finally giving her a name. "You must know now. I am not just a wanderer of the forest, I am the Alpha King of this land." Lyra's breath caught.
King Alpha?
Her mind struggled to connect the fierce, wounded man she had seen in the forest with the ruler before her. "The Alpha King?" she repeated, testing the words on her tongue. Kyle nodded. "Yes, and now you know why this city is dangerous. I cannot be weak here, not even for a moment. But," his voice softened, "when I am with you, I do not feel the weight of the crown. I feel something else." Lyra's heart thudded. Something else. Something she had felt from the first moment she had seen him in the forest. Something that had drawn her forward despite every instinct screaming for caution. "You saved me," Kyle said, turning to face her fully. "Even when you did not understand who I was or what I carried? You trusted me." Lyra lowered her gaze, uncertain. "I did not know why I stayed," she admitted. "Perhaps. I just could not leave." Kale stepped closer, careful, measured. "Do you know what it means to be Alpha?" he asked softly. "To carry not just power, but responsibility for those who cannot defend themselves." Lyra's eyes met his. "I know what it is to protect those who cannot fight," she said. "I have lived it every day." For a moment, the world shrank to just the two of them, a palace full of shadows forgotten. Kale studied her, seeing not just a feral omega of the forest, but someone capable, strong, and unyielding. And Lyra saw him, the man behind the crown, the Alpha behind the armor, the one whose strength did not diminish his need for connection. The moment broke as the sounds of courtly intrigue drifted through the halls. Whispered warnings, secret messages, and rumors of a plot against Kale's life reached Lyra's keen ears. Her instincts flared. This city was dangerous, but she would not let him face it alone. "Something is wrong," she said quietly. "They speak in whispers. They plot against you." Kyle's gray eyes darkened. "I know, and that is why I brought you here. You are more than an observer, Lyra. The forest, it prepared you. You are stronger than anyone suspects, stronger than I first realized." Lyra felt a shiver of both fear and pride. To hear Kale say these words, to recognize her power, was intoxicating. She had always been part of the wild, untamed, and overlooked. Now she was seen. Together they moved through the palace, careful, alert. Lyra's senses guided them, picking up the faintest hints of betrayal, the smallest movements of shadowed figures. Kale trusted her instinctively, letting her lead in moments when even he could not see the danger. Hours passed. The palace night stretched long, filled with tension. At last, Kale led Lyra to a balcony overlooking the moonlit city. The wind carried a mixture of smoke, stone, and life. Below, soldiers patrolled, unaware of the two who watched them from above. "Why did you come here?" Lyra asked again, her voice low. Kyle's eyes met hers, unwavering. "I came for the kingdom, yes, but also for you." Even before I understood it fully, I felt the connection. The pull. "You are my mate, Lyra. The forest, the pack, everything points to you." Lyra's heart raced. Mate. She had never heard the word spoken with such certainty, yet something deep inside her recognized it. Her instincts, her soul, the wild thread that connected her to the pack, all of it resonated with his claim. She began, unsure, but words failed her. She had lived alone, untamed, for 10 years. Now someone asked her to trust not just him, but a world she had never truly known. Kale reached for her hand. "You do not have to decide tonight. Just know I will protect you, and when the time comes I will wait for you. No one harms what is mine." Lyra felt the weight of his words, and for the first time the idea of surrender did not scare her. It was not weakness. It was connection. Strength shared, trust earned, and a bond that could withstand even the darkest shadows. But fate is rarely simple. A sudden movement in the courtyard below caught Lyra's attention. Figures cloaked in black slipped between guards unseen. Assassins. Kale stiffened, his hand tightening around hers. They came sooner than I expected, he whispered. Without hesitation, Lyra moved. Her feral instincts took over. She leaped to the railing, landing silently on the balcony below, eyes scanning the intruders. She barked a low commanding sound like a call to her pack in the forest. Though they were far away, she felt their presence respond, a surge of wild power within her. Kyle followed, drawing a dagger, his movements precise, practiced. Together they faced the danger, human and wolf-born fighting side by side. Lyra moved with grace, striking and dodging, her senses heightened. Kale's blade found its mark, protecting her and striking with deadly precision. The intruders fled, leaving only whispers and shadows. Lyra's heart pounded, her body alive with adrenaline. Kale turned to her, eyes wide with both awe and something softer. Admiration, maybe even awe at her courage. You, he said, catching his breath. You are unlike anyone I have ever met. Strong, fearless, and mine. Lyra's pulse raced. We survived, she said, voice trembling. Together. Kale stepped closer, cupping her face in his hands. Together, he echoed. And we will face whatever comes next. I promise. For a moment the city faded, the palace forgotten. Only the two of them remained, standing on the balcony under the moon, bound by trust, strength, and an unspoken promise. The wild Omega and the Alpha King, a bond forged in danger and choice, heart and instinct entwined. But even as they held each other, a shadow moved beyond the palace walls. Far in the distance, in the forests that Lyra had once called home, a faint howl answered her call. Not from her pack, but from someone who had watched, waited, and remembered. The story was far from over. The bond between Lyra and Kale was only the beginning, and the darkness that lurked in both court and forest whispered that even love must be tested by fire. Lyra gazed at Kale, her heart filled with determination and longing. She would face the dangers of this human world, the plots and the shadows, because she knew one truth above all. With Kale, she was no longer just an Omega of the forest. She was a force to be reckoned with, a mate of the Alpha King, and together they would face whatever came next.